My guest today is Natasha Trenev, who is the mother of probiotics. Now, her extensive experience and knowledge of the industry began with her family's, get this, 750-year history of producing the most beneficial yogurt prized by the royal family of Yugoslavia. Now, Natasha is the founder and president of Natren. And Natren probiotic products come with 40 years of focused, rigorous scientific research and technology from leading scientists and researchers in the field of probiotics. Now, for 40 years, Natasha has stated the proper precision probiotics will have profound effects on every aspect of human health that includes physical, mental, as well as emotional, skin, and organ health. And it is regarded as the foundation of health. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome my esteemed guest today, the president and founder of Natren Probiotics, Natasha Trenev, to the show. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to speak about the most important field for human health. And the better we understand it, the better we can solve our problems.
Amen to that. Now, you are called the mother of probiotics. So, how did you get into the world of probiotics?
Well, actually, my family started the yogurt business in the mid 1960s while I was still a student in high school. And nobody knew what real style Bulgarian yogurt was. So I had to set the yogurt standard in the state of California in 1969 because people didn't understand the difference between starter cultures and other beneficial bacteria. So that standard still stands today. Unfortunately, nobody abides by it. And then our family introduced the first kefir sold commercially through Altadena Dairy, also around that time. And it was so much confusion about kefir, even today, that I was asked by the state of New York to fly out in the late 1970s to help set their state standard for kefir, which was then later adopted by other states. And still, nobody follows those standards, and people are completely confused of what a yogurt is, of what a kefir is. And that's where we need to really straighten them out because this is the most important field of human health. So the lack of knowledge and the confusion has to be changed.
That I completely believe, and it is amazing that even in the industry today that these companies are not abiding by the guidelines that have been set forth for decades, and the public doesn't realize that what they're buying is not actually what's in the bottle. But why
Right.
have probiotics become the most vital supplement for our bodies today than any other time in our history?
Right. When you use the word probiotics, remember, I didn't invent the term. I brought the term to the health food industry in 1982. And I also set not one, but two standards for probiotic labeling standards. One was read into congressional record in 1994. So we have to have a definition of probiotic bacteria. It's like saying any doctor can do brain surgery. No, they can't. And, a car will not get you to the moon, even if it's a mode of transportation. So, same thing with probiotic bacteria. One, they have to be part of us from the very beginning, and they have to be safe. A lot of times, people are putting in organisms that are not safe. And if a person has a problem, their doctor cannot diagnose what the problem is. So, the probiotics have to be safe. They have to target specific regions in the GI tract, which is 27 feet long. In fact, your small intestine, if you took it out, would cover a tennis court, and it's about 20 feet long. So, on that intestinal wall is where all the action happens. You've got almost 70 to 80% of your immune cells on that intestinal wall, and there's a huge battle and dominance going on every second you live and talk for those spaces on your intestinal wall that are protected there by your immune cells. And only food is supposed to go through your intestinal wall. And of course, the bad characters, which we are now unfortunately loaded with, are there to interrupt that flow, cause problems with the immune cells. Because why? Every microorganism's primal directive is they have to multiply their kind and dominate a area wherever it might be. So, this lack of understanding and people just throwing names of bacteria on a label is probably the most unethical thing that anyone can do, because these bacteria are not stupid. They don't perform because we have a marketing and sales plan, and the time in our history and the seriousness of the health of this country is a time for us to understand what bacteria are truly beneficial, how we need to culture them, how we need to stabilize them, how we need to ship them, how we need to ingest them so that they can actually do some good and start changing some of these problems that we are seeing now in a country that has chronic illness as a major health and financial problem.
Now, I understand that what a few decades ago that there was research done where they took many of the probiotic products off the market to test. But
Mhm.
most of those products, what, upwards to 80 to 90%, were not viable. Can you kind of explain what happened?
Yeah. What happens is that when you test probiotic products and they have 6, 8, 12 strains, and most of those that viability can't be tested. There's only one or two maybe organisms that survive. They're the least important, and there's a game being afoot. Some of the products are completely don't have any viable organisms. Others may have some that are not important, but the major ones that are listed on the label are not the viable ones, and they can only be tested by genetic testing. So that's not helping the public. And plus, since most bacteria are engaging in something called competitive exclusion, they're knocking each other off in the capsule for dominance. So that is a completely crazy thing to do, to throw all these bacteria together in a closed-ended system in like a capsule, think they're going to survive shelf life, handling, stomach acid, bile to do you any good. This is what we have to learn. I've spent my life, more than 6 decades studying these bacteria, translating data from every language across the world, and making sure that I chose the bacteria that absolutely help our small intestinal health, making sure that there are no bad players trying to take advantage of our body by getting into our bloodstream. Because, by the way, every inch and every uh, measure in your body is inhabited by bacteria, including your brain cells, including your neurons, including your blood, including every aspect of your body. So, if we don't understand this, we will be plagued with chronic disease in our country and in the world.
How can my viewers focus on total healing than just symptom relief?
Well, good. Well, so, see, I've done all the thinking for everybody, and that's why I'm still working. And by the way, I am 77 years old. I don't hide my age. I've never had anything done to my face. The skin is a reflection of what's going on inside of your body. So when you look at somebody's skin, you can tell more or less if they're healthy or not. It's an indicator. It's not the total picture of what's going on inside. But what I did from the very beginning, I chose these microbes that, number one, live in the small intestine. Now, Lactobacillus acidophilus has been in the literature for 100 years, and I don't choose many other lactobacilli because I don't want them to compete with the other most important bacteria group that lives in the large intestine, and that's bifidobacteria. And the reason this is important because each of these organisms have a niche in your intestinal tract, in your reproductive organs, in your brain, where they like to reside, and they have to be compatible with other important beneficial bacteria, because you want them to exclude the bad players. You do not want them to exclude the other good players that are necessary for all your health, not just your intestinal health. So Lactobacillus acidophilus, and the reason people don't use it is because they just want to impress people with science. I mean, the information and data is incredible. The problem is that nobody knows how to choose these microbes that are completely safe, that possess all these wonderful qualities that they're all talking about, these different strains. And the reason they go into different species of lactobacilli, because they want to create a marketing niche. It's not really about having a better probiotic product. It's about getting to the consumer, giving them great information, and then having them assume that that information is used in the manufacturing and the make of that product, which is not true. We have sold over 15 million bottles of our flagship Healthy Trinity. I have never had any complaints filed against me in 44 years of doing business, and I only make probiotics using 4 or 5 exclusive strains that I make sure that each strain is compatible with a human being, that it's going to go into the area where it's going to do the most help, and that it never, under any conditions, does any harm. Your body has to be able to digest, absorb, continue supporting immune function in order to replace your whole body every year. That's why we age, because if you don't have the right reproductive proteins, your body will age prematurely. You will be susceptible to disease. And I believe there was a great creator that created our body, and he doesn't create junk. Our bodies are beautiful biochemical machines that were designed to last 140 years. Why we're all dying soon and in hospitals tied up to tubes is beyond my understanding. Now, I was also the first one to introduce a bifidobacteria for the large intestine, where this is where all of our sanitation and elimination of waste goes on. So your body is a perfect fueling machine where you ingest food. It should be going through your body in less than 24 hours, and you should be expelling waste. If your liver is burdened, cleaning up all this junk you're eating, your poor body is going to be burdened and you will age prematurely. Stomach acid was designed to break down protein and to kill bacteria. There is nothing sterile in our food. Bacteria comes with every bite of food that you take. The problem is the 10,000 chemicals we now have in our food that has now caused these bacteria to become more aggressive, because remember, their primal objective is to thrive. So they have to accommodate their directive to thrive, so they will change. And so now you're ingesting this food with much more dangerous bacteria that are getting into your GI tract and can cause autoimmune problems, can cause improper feeding of the body, or I call the fueling of the body. And then you have something we call dis-ease. Let me just tell you, the other lactobacillus that I chose was the Lactobacillus bulgaricus. This bacteria is quite unique. It actually helps you break down or pre-digest the food because it does it for itself, and therefore it will help your digestion, because the most important thing is that when your food is broken down, it's broken down in the right molecular size so your body can absorb it without disturbing immune function. Because if the food is not broken down precisely, your immune cells are going to say, oh my God, what's coming across the intestinal wall? They're going to think it's an invader. Why? Because bacteria are virtually all protein. So your stomach acid designed perfectly to digest protein and to kill bacteria. So if you're giving a probiotic product, you not only want it to survive manufacturing, shelf life, and shipping, now it has to survive stomach acid. So I did the work for you. I decided that the only way I can protect these bacteria from stomach acid is to put it in oil. Why? Oil will not break down in the stomach. It is emulsified by bile. So we have studies that show our 3 probiotic bacteria, and all you have to remember is the name Healthy Trinity, were designed to survive stomach acid as low as 1.8 pH for well over an hour. That is unheard of. So then the bacteria are dropped alive, and since they're bile tolerant, even bile doesn't kill them. So now they're healthy and alive and can go on your small intestinal wall, or the bifidobacteria will choose to live in the large intestine because it's a habitat it likes to thrive in. And now you have this continual supply of the appropriate beneficial bacteria that evolve with us to help you with every bodily function you have going on every day. Now, the people say to me, why do you have to take it every day? Because uh, virtually 40% of your dry weight fecal matter is bacteria. Bacteria come in and they go out. So it is a revolving door. So that's why you've seen the cultures that have specific fermented food live longer and are healthier. And that's why we have to, unfortunately, in our culture, concentrate and make these bacteria more potent, more powerful, because for the last 50 years, we have literally poisoned the population in North America. We have 80% chronically ill people, and we have 60% chronically ill children. This is unheard of. And the autism rate is not slowing down. It's going to 1 in 2 children by 2030. That's 5 years from now. Nothing has slowed it down. You cannot willy-nilly just consume bacteria because somebody that has no experience tells you how great it is. It's too dangerous. Bacteria are smarter than we are.
Now, just in the last couple of years, we have seen how, especially in America, where people's immune functions have been completely disrupted. How do probiotics improve the function of our immune system? And then what about all of those who chose to take the COVID vaccine? And do those individuals have a compromised immune system now? And if so, why?
Okay, very good question. First of all, let's talk about general immunity. We mentioned possibly earlier that 70 to 80% of your immune cells are found on the intestinal wall, which is 27 feet long. Those bacteria have those immune cells have a intimate communication with the bacteria on the intestinal wall. The bad bacteria are sending signals to confuse the immune cells and to start attacking the body rather than attacking them. And then we label that with a name called an autoimmune disease. Now, the great part about all of the bacteria that I use, they have an intimate communication with the immune cells, especially with the killer cells and the T cells, which are your first line of defense against viruses, bacteria, or mold that enter your body. And if this function is suppressed, then you get something we call, again, disease. And they have found that people who have cancer have a suppression of T cells and killer cell activity in their body, which nobody ever talks about. And that's important to know, that those cells need to be stimulated by their communication. It's called crosstalk between the bacteria and the immune cells, so that the immune cells are not tricked into exposing the body, but are working with the right bacteria to protect the intestinal wall and protect the integrity of the body. Now, when we talk about the spike protein, unfortunately for us, the spike protein not only seeks to find weakness in our body and attack it, it also destroys all of the bifidobacteria in the large intestine. And this is, science done by a very prominent doctor who has been complaining about this and trying to get articles published, even though she's a well-recognized doctor, uh, done over 32 clinical trials, was published before. But the minute she started saying the spike protein kills the bifidobacteria in the large intestine, all of a sudden her papers are not being published, which is a huge red flag for me, because regardless on what aisle you are of the vaccines or long haul COVID, the spike protein is a problem. Thousands of doctors acknowledge that. It first damages the bifidobacteria in large intestine. It can also diminish the size of your hippocampus, and you cannot engage in critical or higher level thinking. And this is quoted by a wonderful doctor, Michael Niels, who wrote the book, The Indoctrinated Brain, and was criticized by his colleagues because he wrote something about the spike protein and how it affects your brain, but he didn't care, because he said, that's what the research shows, and I'm going to be true to my research. So we see the spike protein affecting us in every possible way. And it's very important that we get effective products that can actually deliver alive bifidobacteria that want to stay in our large intestine and don't want to leave our body because that doesn't serve us right. So anybody who's been exposed to the spike protein, it is very important you get the right bifidobacteria for your large intestine and you start helping your immune cells because we already are seeing huge, massive problems with the increase of turbo cancers, even in young children. Just be assured that we need to get the right species and strains of bifidobacteria, the right species and strain of lactobacillus. We have to start working with our body to start rebuilding it. And we have to also know about our diet.
For all of my viewers out there, I want them to get started on Natren Healthy Trinity. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yes, we still have a number that you can call. You can go on our website, but if you want to call and talk to a live dedicated person, the number is 866, the number 4, and then you just spell out the name Natren, Natren. And by the way, Natren stands for Natasha Trenev. So Natasha Trenev is behind every one of those bottles that gets shipped out. And while I'm alive, there's no bottle that's going to be shipped out that's not perfect. I can assure you that because everybody says you're too obsessed about the quality. And I said, no, I have a responsibility to each person that pays me money for this product that they get the best that I can deliver to them.
Take her words, they're wise words. And again, before I go to break, go to natren.com, use the code Get Healthy because you will, and I can guarantee that you will get healthy. Stay tuned. I'll be right back after this.